to seize my 4 shares in CSC Holdings Incorporated, but I have no shares in CSC Holdings Incorporated. So it has a fatal defect in it, and nothing has come of it, nothing will. It's amazing how, in broad daylight, they can make such fools of themselves. I am talking about Charles F. Dolan, James L. Dolan, Robert Lemley, William Bell, the board of directors of Cablevision, Charles Dolan's court jester, Charles Former. I'm talking about these sleazes and the fools that they will make of themselves in broad daylight. Cablevision does not own public access. We do. It was given to us by Congress. It was given to you, the public, by Congress. Your public's right to hear and know, and our right to tell you. So, Cablevision does not own public access. We do. And this is this crooked judge, John P. de Blasio, and we have to keep working to get rid of him. This is the judge who, instead of being in court for 31 mornings, was at the Connecticut School of Broadcasting taking a course in how to be a TV host. And here he is caught coming out of the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. De Blasio spends time in TV class, not in court. Gannett caught him cheating, and Glendora has caught him cheating several times and exposed it to you for years. John P. de Blasio, Supreme Court, so-called, County of Westchester, State of New York. Get rid of him. About funerals. You people, do you want to spend $7,500 on a funeral? Well, you can. Funeral directors will get it up to that if they can. Now, if you do want to do it, that's fine. If you don't want to do it, though, and if you don't want life savings to go that way, then you must right now sit down and call up the funeral directors, get the prices, choose the funeral director you want, write it on a piece of paper, and hand it to your loved ones. Because when you die, your loved ones are going to be in great grief. And they're going to say, oh, well, that doesn't show respect if we don't buy that for the funeral. So I have it all set, and then that confusion and uncertainty and ripoff will not agonize the ones you leave who are so unhappy about your passing. So just do that. It's a simple thing. Here's shareholder information. Here's my dividend from Texaco, and it is 90 cents with the price of gasoline up to $1, and last week it was $1.60. The week before it was down pretty well, $1.49, $1.50. I don't know why our government doesn't protect us from this outrageous monopoly of gasoline prices. Anyway, it says that the Texaco annual meeting will not be held in April as it always has been, and Glendora takes full credit for that. Okay? Because remember how Glendora exposed Peter I. Bajor at the last annual meeting, and he is out. He's a goner. And he got what he deserved. Too bad I don't have time to read you these legal papers. But remember, one good thing that happened last week was this a matter of justice. These people are petitioning Congress to get rid of these crooks in the courts, in the federal courts. And then we got to get rid of the crooks in the state courts and the crooks in the municipal courts. I will tell you the springtime joke. It's 3:23 a.m. on April 17th, and I have to use a short form for videotaping because there just isn't time to give you the full reports that you should have. Springtime joke. It's a bright spring day. The sun is shining, and a worm comes out of the ground, and 3 inches away he sees another worm. And he says to her, "You're beautiful. You're lovely. I love you. I want to marry you." And she said, "Oh, stop it. I'm your other end."
Ex post facto, you cannot make laws that affect what people did beforehand. There's an exception here, okay? And this is why our tax code is so unjust, is because you can go along, you can have the best CPAs in the world, and there are actual cases like this, and you conducted your affairs according to the laws that were on the books for 10 years. Congress comes along and passes a statute that increases your tax liability, all right? Because there is no ex post facto clause for civil actions at the federal level, then what can happen, this is basically what happened on this case with the Torture Victim Protection Act, what happens then is, now since Congress has passed this new law, now the Justice Department is going to come after you, the IRS is going to come after you, because under this new law, instead of you paying 20% taxes, now you're supposed to pay 30%, and since ex post facto does not apply in a civil case, which includes tax collection, now you owe all the extra 10% for all those years, plus you can owe the interest and penalties also, all right? And the reason this nonsense got started is that back in the early days of the Republic, before 1800, Congress was getting ready to pass the bankruptcy laws, because what's not too well known today, you'll see this in Bowden's Government by Judiciary, is that we actually had debtors' prisons into the early 19th century, just like England did. If you could not pay what you owed, they would lock you up. Sometimes they'd lock your wife and kids up there with you. And so in order to stop this nonsense, Congress was investigating the bankruptcy laws. Now at the time, the United States Supreme Court judges, there were only 5 of them, the beginning days of the Republic, and then they started increasing the numbers, and then Franklin Roosevelt tried to pack the court, which, as far as I'm concerned, he should have, except he should have packed it with gunpowder. What happened next is that one of these Supreme Court judges was on the lam. In other words, as soon as they caught this guy, they were going to put him in debtor's prison. So his 4 buddies on the United States Supreme Court said, well, when Congress passes this bankruptcy law to protect debtors, if we go with the ex post facto clause of the Constitution, he will have no protection under these bankruptcy laws, so therefore we're going to hold that, yes, ex post facto holds for criminal cases, but it doesn't hold for civil cases. So because these 4 dirtbags were trying to protect their buddy, we have had a tax code that every time Congress changes it for the worst, literally breaks people right and left, all because of one deadbeat federal judge prior to 1800. That's the way that worked. And so what we did here is we showed that, number 1, the Supreme Court didn't have the authority to do that, and number 2, since these were criminal acts these people were being accused of, ex post facto would apply. There's a good quote from Bowden. Let me show you how good Bowden is. Go here to page 52. It is one of the essential weaknesses of the government by judiciary that, as in all theocratic governments, based upon the sole power to expound a sacred text, its priests cannot afford to admit error without undermining the power of the priesthood and upsetting the form of government in which they are the ruling caste. Error must therefore be perpetuated no matter what the consequences. For to those who believe in that form of government is of much more importance than the alleged sacred text upon the exposition which it is supposed to be based. There's pages and site numbers. And then there's a 6th cause of action, due process, a 7th cause of action, obstruction of justice, Then we go into the RICO conspiracy, the legal claims, which gets kind of voluminous. This is something that if you're in the Ninth Circuit or if you have a situation in which you actually want to be able to take conflicting case law and make these clowns go one way or the other. Problem is that most people, since they are not aware of the fact, now the Eighth Circuit does this also. If you're in Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa, the Dakotas, or Nebraska, the Eighth Circuit also gives itself the right to take either line of case law they want in order to adjudicate a decision. And if you want to put their feet to the fire, this is how you do it on that particular issue. Remember with Tapia Ortiz, the issue was failure to address the issues raised. With the Ninth Circuit, the issue is contradictory case law. And if you think the judges are not the ones who actually make our laws, you better read some of these published opinions. Now, the next thing, remember what I just said about the sacred text? Let me give you a case. This is only part of a case here. I thought I had another player who was going to rock and roll with this thing in the Ninth Circus, but I guess he decided not to. And this particular set of facts here, remember what I said about theocratic government? Remember what I said when this seminar began? And ladies and gentlemen, the people you're up against aren't just your enemies, they're God's enemies. Let me prove it to you, okay? And it sounds like I'm going to be going a little far afield here, but just bear with me and you'll see what I'm talking about, okay? Stoicism. Stoicism, school of philosophy in Athens in ancient Greece, was founded about 300 BC by Zeno of Citium. Stoicism was later introduced to the Romans by Panatius of Rhodes. Outstanding Roman Stoics included Marcus Tullius Cicero, Cato the Younger, Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius. Stoicism, now this is the clue here, Stoicism was the most influential philosophy in the Roman Empire prior to the rise of Christianity. Okay, now philosophy and religion are interchangeable terms. Here's the definition for religion. As used in constitutional provisions of First Amendment forbidding the establishment of religion, the term means a particular system of faith and worship recognized and practiced by a particular church, sect, or denomination. Religion, a particular system of faith and worship. Philosophy, a particular system of ideas relating to the general scheme of the universe. Okay? Now here's a quote from 1892. This is a Christian nation. Okay? The Christianity is actually in our Constitution. Every Sunday school student knows the Fourth Commandment, 1961 Supreme Court dissent. And you'll see that in the Constitution, because when they count forward, it shows you that there's you can count forward one day on a Sunday, okay? 6 days shalt thou labor and do work, and so forth, the King James, okay? Here's where the Constitution itself recognizes the Sabbath. If any bill shall not be returned by the President within 10 days, Sundays excepted, after it shall have been presented to him, the same shall be a law in like manner as if he had signed it, unless the Congress, by their adjournment, prevent its return, in which case it shall not be a law. Article 1, Section 7. Well, at least we were supposed to be a Christian nation until the now infamous decision in Roe versus Wade. Now, let me prove to you that Stoicism is a religion. In one of the most moving hymns of antiquity, Cleanthes prays to Zeus, "Grant that I may find the judgment in which you trust and by which you steer all things with justice." There's the citation. At any rate, the Stoic God is not absolute. Unlike the Jewish God, he does not bring forth the world by fiat. Now, let's go to Roe versus Wade. Ancient religion did not bar abortion. The ancient religion promulgated in the Old Testament did. Whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man his blood be shed, for in the image of God made he man. And then there's the rest of the biblical citations here. Okay? And you get down to the last biblical citation, "Let the day perish wherein I was born, and the night in which it was said there was a man-child conceived." That is, the embryo was considered a man from the moment of conception. Now, here's some quotes from Roe versus Wade. I'm going to give you the first one on this page. Most Greek thinkers, on the other hand, commended abortion at least prior to viability. For the Pythagoreans, however, it was a matter of dogma. For them, the embryo was animate from the moment of conception, and abortion meant destruction of a living being. And then they tell you, of course, here in the next line, the emerging teachings of Christianity were in agreement with the Pythagorean ethic. To contradict myself here, I'm going to have to give you this. There has always been strong support for the view that life does not begin until live birth. That was the belief of the Stoics. Okay? Now, at this point, what happened was the United States Supreme Court decided to impose Stoicism as the national religion of the United States. Okay? And there's a couple of interesting videos on this that I watched. Both these women in Roe versus Wade and Doe versus Bolton, neither one of them wanted an abortion. Their attorneys picked it up and ran with it. The whole thing was a fraud upon the court, and when you have a fraud upon the court, that invalidates the decision. In other words, Roe versus Wade and Doe versus Bolton were both put together by attorneys practicing fraud upon the court. This explains next what the fraud upon the court is. Okay? It shows you a history of, for example, it shows you the school district of Abington Township versus Shemp. Shows you how they got the Bible out and prayer out of the public schools. And it shows you, there's another case here that where Roe is showing you how what the Supreme Court did is they didn't build on the Constitution, they built on their own prior decisions for this nonsense. And Christians understood Stoicism by another name. What you'll find if you go back in your encyclopedia sets and your history books and that sort of thing, is that Stoicism, these Stoics were followers of Zeus. In the Roman, he was known as Jupiter Olympus. And in the Hebrew, in your Bible, he was known as Baal. In other words, Supreme Court, June 22nd, 1973, installed Baal worship as the official religion of the United States. Unfortunately, nobody has ever called them to task for this. And the final thing I want to give you here on this particular case, this is from a case from the a quotation of the 3rd century BC. The arrow shot by the archer may or may not kill a single person, but stratagems devised by a wise man can kill even babes in the womb. And unfortunately, this particular case here, this is only a small part of the case. There were two facets to it. One was the, discombobulated in here with break. One was the judicial anarchy. The other was the installation of Baal worship. That's it for me for today. I will see you here. Hopefully you'll be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed in the morning. We're going to take a break, and then Peter is going to show you what's available over here, what you need, and so forth and so on. Because like I say, I know we have a lot of neophytes here. At the very least, every single one of you who does not know how to shepherdize, who doesn't know how to look up case citations, you need the lawsuit cookbook, and none of the other stuff's going to hurt you either.
We are the Erwin Rommel School of Law, and our mailing locator is P.O. Box 211 in Atwater, Minnesota. The Babylonian commune number 56209-0211. Our telephone is 320-857-2400. Our fax is 2401. And our email, our website on the net, http://members.aol.com/RommelLaw. And we're going to have a tour of the bookstore, and then we're going to send you off to dinner. We'll be right back. Thanks a lot. And welcome back. This is our crass, naked commercial message. And it's nice folks like you supporting our work and buying our books and covers. So this is going to kind of be the Evelyn Wood version of Erwin Rommel's bookstore. The flagship of the fleet is the Bible the Puritans held at Plymouth Rock in 1620. This is the 1599 Geneva Bible. This Bible is laid out like a federal appellate brief. Actually, it's backwards. The first paragraph that you read in the book of Genesis says, "the argument." And in your course materials, you'll see in table of contents and appellate briefs, the argument. King James loathed this Bible so bad that he made its ownership, production, or distribution a felony. In 1607, he released the Bishop's Bible. It failed to win popular support. In 1611, he released the authorized King James perversion. We have for free for you folks the King James written instructions to his translators. Number 6 is no marginal notes. The margin notes in this Bible have literally gotten purchasers of it thrown out of incorporated churches in the United States. 71% of your Bible applies to civil government bureaucrats only. Only 29% of the laws in your Bible, regardless of edition, apply to your specific individual conduct. The new kid on the block for us is the 1841 English Hexapla. This comes in 2 volumes. This is volume 1. This is a 160-page dissertation on the creation of the Bible in the English language, printed in 1800, followed by an 1805 edition of the Greek Textus Receptus with Wycliffe's 1382 New Testament, Tyndale's 1534, Cranmer's 1539, the Geneva's 1557 New Testament, the Anglo-Reims, or the Roman Catholics' Reims New Testament, and the King James of 1611. The New Testaments are laid out in parallel columns so that you can compare the translations from Wycliffe through the King James, and the Greek original is in the upper third of the page. The Geneva Bible and the Hexapla Bible both are $129 in our catalog. For our seminar attendees, they are $100. We open the seminar with the Jerusalem Bible. If you're interested in the Bible as law as opposed to religious nonsense, this is a wonderful tool. It is a now out-of-print Catholic Bible, translated from the French. It uses the correct sacred names. It makes the turgid language of the King James and the Geneva, and even the Farrar Fenton Bible, which we also have in our catalog, it just opens the New Testament into a very easily accessible circumstance. Where the New Testament is poetry, the Jerusalem Bible blocks poetry, and where the text is prose, the Jerusalem Bible blocks prose. So it's a wonderful tool and comes very highly recommended. 2 of the many suppressed books in the Scripture are the Book of Jasher and the Book of Enoch. Although both of these translations are suspect by certain scholars, you get in the Book of Jasher for about 60 minutes and you'll figure out very easily why the government-controlled churches removed it from the Old Testament. This is hardball, bare knuckles, in your face, the result of what happens when you start obeying rather than believing. The Jasher is $20. Enoch is $12. The 2 together. Fabulous stuff relating the Bible to you as a legal document as opposed to a religious document. And it closes with a reprint of Bill Strittmatter's explanation of the Bible as a civil government constitution, Christian constitution and public policy for the kingdom of heaven on earth. And it really, really demonstrates to you very quickly the difference between law and religion. The guts of the Bible Law Index are your responsibilities toward your fellow man, your responsibilities towards Yahweh, and it lays out the Old Testament and New Testament and just breaks it down as a law book. The Bible Law Index is $10. This is rescued from the memory hole in the United States history. This is chaplains and clergy of the American Revolution. This was printed in 1856. It was compiled by J.T. Headley. You will read the sermons preached during the American War of Independence. The American War of Independence was organized and operated out of the pulpits of the American colonies' churches. And these whorehouse operators out here today with their 501c3 IRS tax-exempt corporate status ain't never heard preaching like this, not ever. Pastor Muhlenberg opened a sermon in Pennsylvania with Romans 13, be subservient to the higher powers, they're ordained of God. 80 minutes later, he took off his clerical vestments, and underneath, he was wearing his Pennsylvania regular militia major's uniform. He stood the men of the congregation up, he marched them out into the town square, he signed them up for General Washington's army. When Lord Cornwallis surrendered to George Washington, General Muhlenberg was a staff officer present at the surrender. And you just haven't dealt with preaching like this until you, pick this book up. We have a number of serious and dangerous and grim books on the table that show you what happens in your interfacing with our electronic Babylon. This is Life Without Usury. The reason the Arabs are the bad guys on TV today is because they have reintroduced Sharia banking. And Sharia banking is profit sharing only. There is no usury or interest on loans. There is no confiscation of collateral assets pledged against a loan of nothing if the lender defaults. And that's why every time you turn on the electric toilet, you're dealing with the Arabs as the bad guys. Life Without Usury is 10. This seminar is dedicated to my father, who passed away about 3 weeks ago. This is his book, Unhealthy Food, Unhealthy People. My father died at age 90. He was a biochemist. For you ladies in the audience, the most radical and dangerous appliance in your home is your refrigerator. The problem in the United States is 80% of the food sold to you and me is stale by definition. And it is the byproducts of the ingestion of stale food that puts plaque into your arteries and initiates the cancer cells production in your body. Unhealthy Food, Unhealthy People is $15. Of the Wheat. This is 2 books in one. Past the Yellow Divider is her second book, The Upper Crust. This is bread making A to Z, the way your great-great-great-grandmother did it. And the secret to bread making is you must grind your own grain. If you are not grinding your own grain, you are creating glue. You might as well eat the box that the stuff came in your kitchen. If you grind your own grain and you soak the dough for 7 hours, which is completely explained in 3 different sections in this book, you turn glue into food. You'll notice the scripture says, "Give us this day our daily bread." And I submit to you that there is a biochemical reason for those exact words coming to us in English. To that, the bleaching of flour, North Dakota Agricultural College Government Agricultural Experiment Station, bulletin number 72, November 1906.
prosecution.
In cases it works well in, is to prepare a bunch of motions, and you usually have a copy for the clerk's or the judge's file, the clerk's office, and then you send the copy to the prosecutor. And after they've received enough motions, they just toss them in the pile as more patriot bullshit. And what you do is you insert a couple of motions in there that are very tricky, and one is a motion for a fair trial. And because the judge is instantly going to deny, you know, you have to assume that there's been several, more than a dozen motions in there. And then you insert that, and then you shuffle the prosecutor's paperwork. You don't staple it together or in any way make it continuous. You just shuffle all of his paperwork and you send it to him. And of course, at the day of trial is when the prosecutor opens it up. He's used his patriot garbage, and he's had so much from you already. And now he's fumbling through this stack of 200 documents. And of course, you're waiting, the judge is waiting, and what's this doofus doing over here? Are you ready to proceed? Yes, Your Honor, my paperwork is totally out of order. Your Honor, is he a lawyer, or is he to be admonished for this? No, I have to become prepared. He punish me. What's he doing? And of course, you only get to do that once. But I've done it more than once, but only myself once. It's interesting to watch the look on their faces when you've embarrassed them, and it won't happen again, by the way. Usually once burned, twice shy. It got so bad that we used to have a guy in the law library, because the lawyers, particularly the prosecutor's office, will not use the law library as long as a pro se is in there. And anytime you catch a lawyer in there, you stop and ask him questions, right? Don't care who he is. So we used to keep an occupant in the law library in the county courthouse, just to keep the prosecutor out. Right? So they would always come up short. You know, there's always, well, they were in the law library. Your Honor, is that considered an offense? Are we going to have to suffer prosecution for that too? Well, no, but you notice the judge isn't in there either. They don't like pro se's, non-lawyers, using their law office. In fact, our first issue in Candido County was that they kept the law library for judges and lawyers. The public was not allowed. So that was our first issue. I mean, when it started getting political attention, taxpayers, including myself, have to buy books for judges and lawyers for which we're not even entitled to take a look at. It took hours, and the sign changed, open to the public. So, you know, it's a minor victory, but it makes you feel better. You can walk up and say, yeah, I changed that sign. Removing a judge. Now, generally speaking, you can disqualify a judge in most jurisdictions once without cause, just because you don't like him, don't like the spelling of his name. And otherwise, you have to have a cause to remove him. Now, it's called recusal in most states. I rarely recuse a bad judge, only because I want him to do it himself. So I generally would indicate that the bias of this court is evident on the record. Okay? And the fact that this court is prejudiced against defendant because defendant sleeps with the judge's wife. Anything. Now, once that's on the record, or something like that's on the record, do you think that a appellate court would not find that that judge was likely biased? So the outcome of the case then is somewhat in doubt, even if it's against you. If it's for you, obviously he wasn't biased. If it's against you, you can point out, well, I mean, I sleep with his wife, and I told him that I was doing it, and obviously he's biased, so I lost. So there are a lot of things you can do, but recusal is a tool most people never do use correctly. A judge can always recuse himself anytime, and you can ask one time that he's recused. Generally speaking, if it's their idea, in other words, the judge recuses himself, you still have an option open to get rid of a judge you would think isn't going to work with you or work fairly for you. On the other hand, if you're wise enough to know how to use it, it don't matter who the judge is, the recusal should have been the judge. I mean, he's obviously biased. The next judge comes on, and you say he came on because he wanted to see me convicted. Okay, do either way. But anyhow, you can use almost anything to your advantage if you're skillful. Pretrial case summary. Now, some of these jurisdictions, I don't know what this is here in North Carolina, but some of these courts require you to do a pretrial summary. So it's something it's outlined in here. Just name and address, identity of any insurance carriers. Boy, they love insurance carriers. Summary of the pleadings, issues, claims, or defenses. A description of discovery that has been completed and that remains to be completed. A list of any pretrial motions to be brought. The names and addresses of all witnesses who will testify at trial. And this is to apprise the court if there's any need to enlarge the courtroom for exhibits. If we're going to bring in an ox cart, we need to have wider doors. So we might want to trade or change courtrooms. So it's logical, and it performs its function in some cases. Pretrial conferences. Pretrial conference is your first chance to exercise assistance in most courtrooms, especially if you're prosecuting as an individual as opposed to a lawyer or having a lawyer. We usually bring in a friend. They'll almost always admit them at pretrial. And if you're going to use the counsel as an issue, that's one of the places that you want to test the water. In other words, I have several friends who have offered to assist me in this matter. Well, they can't speak. Your Honor, I need assistance. But if they, sometimes they let you sit there. So they can sit there, but they can't address the court. I'd have to think on that, Judge, and let it go. When you get to trial, it's the time to raise it. Because, Your Honor, I'm unable to articulate that subject matter very well, so I'm going to have Mr. Smith here do that for me. Oh, no, you're not. Well, didn't you just put into the record that you wouldn't be able to articulate that? So are you being afforded a fair hearing now? I don't think so. But anyhow, you're trying to make a record. That's what it is. Court rulings in the record. Now, a lot of courts have resorted to electronic recordings as opposed to court reporters. Most cases allow that if you want a court reporter, you have to ask for it. And the court reporter is a monopoly in most states. In some cases, they're appointed by the court. Usually what we want is our own, because it drives them crazy. So they'll have a court reporter, they'll have the electronic record, and we want our own, and we want our own sitting right there. Okay, why are they being discriminated against? It causes some controversies, and that's what we're after. There's no rule against having your own court reporter, by the way, but it's something nobody raises. You know, what I'm saying is that if you're going to use the rules, use them, and use them to the fullest. You'll find things turning out differently just because they're not used to two court reporters in there, just because they're not used to unlicensed assistants, just because they're not used to somebody that's objecting and then saying, Your Honor, I can't think of what that objection is, but it's somewhere here in my trial book under objections. Okay. Well, you can't delay these proceedings. Oh, excuse me, Your Honor, if I was afforded assistance adequate to this exercise, there wouldn't be any delays. Okay. On and on and on and on. So there's a lot going on that you can use. The attorney's trial conduct. Now, this is where you get in for nose picking and all the rest of it if you want to. On the other hand, you might find that most lawyers are intimidated by the thought of losing to a quote-unquote pro se. So it sometimes works to your advantage to appeal to be the Columbo, the bumbling, stumbling, sharp idiot, if there is such a thing. They'll tell you to avoid familiarity. Now, depending on your position, if you're prosecuting or defending, what I suggest, for instance, I address the judge's friend. Now, if you were the plaintiff, you wouldn't necessarily want to do that because it exhibits a form of bias. To a judge, if you're a defendant, it's an annoyance. You'll address the court as Your Honor or the court. Thank you, friend. Okay? Because the opposite of friend is what? And because I deal in honesty, not in titles of nobility. So maybe, maybe not. Depends on who you are and how well you perceive your conduct to be, what would say, viewed by others. Interruptions. Now, here's a rule for the attorneys. An attorney should not interrupt an argument, question, or response unless patently objectionable. Now, if you're not a lawyer, how would you know whether or not it was objectionable, much less patently objectionable? So feel free. Your Honor, I'd like to interpose perhaps an objection here. The judge said, you can't interrupt these people. I'm sorry, I don't understand how he's postulating this without you saying that there's no foundation or some such thing. I'll look up the objection if you just wait a minute. And if you do this often enough, you'll find these people going nuts. It depends on if you want to go to jail in a hurry, shut up. If you don't want to go to jail at all, I suggest you do something about it. Approaching the witness bench. Now, most courts require that you ask permission to approach the bench. It's part of their decorum. I always forget, by the way. And he'll say, hold it, hold it, hold it. I say, oh, well, you are a frightened man. Did you want to step down out of fear? because it's decorum to them. It's ridiculous, what we say, showmanship to me. If you're so fearful, get a job. Most people would. But they want you to protect them, by the way, not the other way around. You notice that the police officers aren't disarmed for your protection? You'll get over it real quick. To stand or sit. Now, I'm usually a man of opposites, so rarely do I take into consideration what they require. In other words, if their rule says you have to sit when asking questions, I tell them I need to stand. I'm unable to think on my seat. And if they ask me to stand, I tell them I have to sit because I'm unable to think on my feet. Get the pun. But in any event, it's whatever suits your purpose. Sometimes I stand, sometimes I walk. Now, they don't like either one of them. I suggest that you stay at the table if you can, because it allows you to be in touch with your notes. But sometimes it's important to demonstrate. Some people have, what would you say, comedic walks. And you can sometimes entertain the jury in spite of themselves by doing it. Some of them are what we say, so stately that a walking man that walks stately and gracefully can impress the jury. I'm neither of those. I just kind of clumsily get around, on 2 feet usually, but I crawl if I have to. Going off the record, any request by counsel to read or mark an exhibit or to go off the record should be addressed to the court, not to the reporter or the clerk, which they're wont to do. So if you catch him doing it, ask him, Your Honor, is he supposed to inquire of the court when we're going to go off the record? Does he direct the activities in here? Demeanor. Counsel should at all times act with respect for the court and all participants at trial. I would advise the same thing. But respect does not mean cowering. And most lawyers are absolutely cowed by the judge. He's your servant, and that's all he is. And when you name him judge, when you say that he's bestowed with the honor of your signature on these pleadings, he is in fact your judge, so you should treat him with due accord and respect, but not with cowardly, weeping and wailing like most people get into. This professional demeanor should not prevent counsel from being assertive, insistent, or aggressive in appropriate situations. That is how that's qualified. Displays of anger, rudeness, and other inappropriate conduct, however, should not occur during the trial. Now, I'm notorious for causing it and notorious for pointing it out. So even if a judge raises his eyebrows, I'd say, Your Honor, I would be pleased if you would not use inappropriate expressions such as this to inform the jury of your displeasure. And of course they come thundering down, will not tolerate this. That's contempt of court. I'm saying, Your Honor, I wasn't trying to hold you in contempt. I was just reminding you that your expressive conduct may prejudice the jury. But it depends on how quick you are. Say what? Well, you can get it off the tapes. Counsel should not indicate by facial expressions, body language, head shaking, gesturing, shouts, or any other conduct any disagreement or approval of evidence, rulings, or events that happened during the trial. Now, this is almost impossible for people to follow. And so if you're watchful, if you have assistants, they'll be watchful and they'll point out inappropriate conduct or even make some up if they have to. But the idea is that the record doesn't reflect this typing of what's going on, or the recording does not necessarily reflect when transcribed innuendo, voice inflections, the finger in the air. None of that's reflected. Now, you can do this to the prosecutor all you want. Now, if he's smart, he'll point it out. He said, Your Honor, the man is gesturing with his fingers. And I said, well,
And I missed the helicopter again. That's too bad. I could have got a good shot of the helicopter coming into the Cablevision headquarters. I made my demand. It was a 94th demand as a shareholder, statutory right to see the books, records, and minutes. And Dolan broke the law again. So this is the 94th request, 94th demand. And Marie, I left Franklin's wallet, an ATM card at Patty's house. And so I only had $15 to serve the refile omnibus. And I don't know if other people have. Marie gave me $15 cash until next Tuesday. And I don't know. I guess that will have to go for gasoline. I have a pole set aside, $3.50. Isn't that horrible, Franklin? It's because there's too much on your mind. I'm taking care of 3 dogs, and Patty, and Patty's house, and Franklin, and a TV show, and 6 legal papers a day, and our own house. So what do you want to do with the $15? If we could borrow more money so that we could do the mailing, we could mail a chat with Glendora. Franklin wrapped all of the tapes. And the editing all got done. 6 editions got done by 1 o'clock. Now that's the ideal. That is the ideal. We got in at 8:30, and that's the ideal. A lot of construction going on there, putting in a new generator. You get to see these. Aren't they beautiful? Okay, let's get the green light. Well, we have to get some gas. How much do you want to get, Franklin? Will $7 get us home?
Oh, sure.
So since Marie gave us $15, you watch me all the time?
What you gotta say is the truth that nobody wants to hear.
Yeah, that's right.
Nobody wants to hear.
That's-
I live in Farmingville, so I'm up against, what's going on there.
Yeah, that's right.
And nobody wants to address the issue. Right or wrong, or what those poor people are doing there, nobody wants to do anything about it.
Right. Well, I am.
People who should be going after it, I believe, is those guys that are picking them up, because they're the ones that are skirting the issue,
That's right. That's right. You want to tell the people your name?
My name is Frank Giordano.
Nice to meet you, Frank.
Thank you.
Farmingdale's a nice place.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And it's still a nice place. With or without them there, I mean, everybody's got to work, right?
Yeah.
It's just that nobody wants to address the issues.
Yeah, well, they're going to.
Everybody's finger pointing,
We're going to make them, Frank. Yes. Frank, what do you think of Cablevision?
Cablevision?
Yeah.
The big thieves?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, you're right.
I'm paying over $60 a month for nothing on. 500 channels and nothing on.
Really? Yeah.
Cablevision. Yeah, he lands over here with his
Helicopter.
$500,000
Helicopter. Yeah, helicopter.
Yeah.
What do you think of Cablevision? What do you think of Cablevision?
Good for them, you got a good business.
All right.
Not a customer problem. I'll take it back here. I can take it back. All right. Thank you, have a good day.
Frank, what do you call a miniature guppy?
What I would call a miniature guppy?
Yeah,
What's that?
a microfiche.
A microfiche. Here you go. Take care, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was too bad, folks. I was so busy listening to Frank from Farmingdale, and Izzy was pumping the gas, and I forgot that I didn't have any money, that I left it all home. And I had the $15 that Marie loaned me, and he pumped $27 worth. So now I owe him $13. $12.25. I had to go see John, the owner. So I feel badly about that. We don't owe anybody any money. Two people. We've never owed anybody any money. Okay, up Oyster Bay from Old Country Road. 2. C. Political file, to hand in the tapes. To see the public access file. To see the least access file. Time. 3:30. An hour and a half. .135 north. Let's go see the political file first. Did you get him? Did you see him? Okay, so where do we go? So here we are at Rainbow Sales to see the political sponsorship file. So I did the Cablevision political file, political sponsorship, and I looked at lots of checks. $8,000, $7,000. Pat Mahoney, Steve Israel. I have to read them to you in the date. In 1999 and 2000. The 2001s won't start until fall. And now I'll go in and ask to see the public access file and the least access file. The information in the public file is skimpy on public access and on least access. So I'll have to call the FCC. But I think the public has a right to know much more than that. And it's really not a public file until you find out how much money passed. That's what makes it a public file. Money. What was the money? Picked up quite a few tapes, handed in 6, handed in the papers. They wished me happy birthday. Do you remember Jackie in Personnel? Very pleasant blonde woman.
Yeah.
Very jolly.
Yeah.
She came down the stairs. She's in Personnel over here now. And she came down the stairs and I told her a joke. And then when she's going upstairs, she says, "How's Franklin?" She always remembers Franklin.
Very good.
Is there any lunch left?
Maybe a little bit here and there. Bread.
What's left?
I was going to.
Oh, let's give that bread to the geese.
I saw this from the top, so I got out a slice of bread. I was going to have a sandwich.
That's pretty how the road curves into the woods. And you wonder where it goes. Probably into another expressway. Cute folks. Propaganda and Mother Goose are eating the bread I put down. Within a minute, they came.
Right.
Franklin's father died at 79. Your mother died at 81?
Yeah.
And Grandpa Fever made it to almost 100. Sylvie says where she works there's lots of people over 100. They have a person over 106, another one 102, another one 103. She says the young ones are dying off. Why are there so many cars? It's 6 p.m. Do you recognize this road? Can you identify this road? Northern State at Glen Cove. This will probably be this way from Glen Cove to the Queens line. Then it will all clear up. He drives a very flashy red sports car. And when I was in the lobby waiting for Josephine, he went up the stairs and I offered him a cookie. And he didn't want to spoil his figure, he said. He pirouetted and disappeared. But today he said Josephine will be right with you. Josephine and I have a good time. She likes jokes. Look at the cars, folks, coming east. Oh. This is just the way it's been, as predicted. From Glen Cove to Queens Line. That was Lakeville Road we just passed. As you get to the Queens Line, everything speeds up. I imagine that's the volume. The people get off. They exit. Happens every time. I didn't have the camera going this morning, folks. It was really interesting reaction to the signs. There was a tall policeman, very clean cut, very good looking. And I held up the sign. He looked at it face on. And then I held up the second one, Citizens Against Tolls, and website is We Hate Tolls. And he nodded in silence. And then he says, "Will you show it to my friend next door?" So he opened his toll booth door, and there was his friend next door. And he says, "Hey, Kevin, look at this." So I held it up high so Kevin could see it. And he says, "Look what it says, Kevin." And look, he says, "Here's another one." Another sign, so I held that up. So that was pretty interesting. And the way he talked, they just were so much like New York policemen. But what did Kevin do? He just nodded and smiled. That's about all he did. I didn't hear him say anything. have destruction, destruction, destruction. That bay is pretty. Here's our last $3.50. Now what do we do, Frank? Take the right side? I guess so. We have the signs ready. Must be about 6:30, huh? No, it's later than that. 6:40. I just have to go home and get the multiple copier, copy machine, and ream of paper, stamps and envelopes. I can't stay away from the dogs any longer. They'll be out of their heads. And then I'll just have to do the first circuit and the second circuit. First circus and the second circus. And the 372 judicial misconduct complaint about McCasey. He's out of his mind and incapable of fulfilling the duties of his office. Hello! Thank you. Yeah, we hate toast.
I'm gonna go to it as soon as I get home.
Thank you. Bye. He says, what's the website? And I said, we hate told. He says, I'll get into it just as soon as I get home. Okay. So what is going on here? This is the judicial misconduct complaint against Michael B. Mukasey, a crazy United States District Judge in the Southern District of New York. And this is according to the law of Congress, Title 28 U.S. Code, Section 372. 3C. It can only be 5 pages long, and then the complaint is a form. So 5 copies have to go to the useless Second Circuit or Second Circus, and then I'm going to send 5 copies to other people and ask them to sign it and send it in to the Second Circus and to Orrin Hatch and to the House Judiciary Committee. It was a good night, my birthday night, May 1st. It was a 3-dog night. Rusty slept by himself. And Acumen was pretty good. He was at my feet. And Rocky was on my legs. So it was a 3-dog night. And we are doing a good job house setting and helping Patty. There goes the New York Times being recycled. Look at this. Lilacs. Oh, what a great creation. What a beautiful world you give us. This is north on the Hudson. There's a whole lot of things to tell you folks. First of all, let's begin with what day it is. It's a beautiful Saturday, May the 5th, 2001, Anno Domini. And this is the Glendora Pro Se and Public Access Museum. And we're out fighting for your rights. Get the rights back to you that dirty judges have stolen. And guess what? I'm going to get up very early tomorrow morning, like 4 o'clock, Sunday morning. We're going to drive to Washington, D.C., folks, to the United States Supreme Court. And we're going to picket against the injustice in the courts. People have stolen your courts. People have stolen your courts. Crooked lawyers, corrupt judges have stolen your courts. And we're trying to get them back to you. And the name of this group that's picketing is A Matter of Justice. And we're picketing the circuit courts, United States Courts of Appeal. First Circuit. I call them circuses. Michael Brown calls them circuses. The First Circus, the Second Circus, Boston, the Third Circus, Philadelphia. I'm trying to find a tape to play for you by Gene Crescenzi.
You say there's 3 articles?
Well, in the New York Times, on the weekend of the 10th, there were 3 articles by 2 investigative reporters about talking about the inadequacy of the court toward the poor people. And they pointed out how the courts and the judges and the lawyers all give the poor people a bad time, and they don't get justice in the courts. And of course, the real truth of the fact is that the reason why these articles come out now, and they're so few and far between, is because the newspapers, especially the big newspapers, are really they are part of the conspiracy not to make the judicial system work for the benefit of the people, and to be actually a hostile social force against against the citizens of our society and anyone who gets into who is the victim of injustice. And the very fact that they print these, they print 3 articles on 3 days, the 9th, the 10th, and 11th, and the 12th, in the New York Times is proof of that fact. And I wrote them a letter, and I told them, I said that that the reason why we have the judicial system actually operates to prohibit, as a force prohibiting what I call off-limits litigation. Off-limits challenge to the protected racketeering of the courts themselves. And this is a game that it's a racketeering operation that is run by the bar associations, the courts, the judges, the law schools, and the different committees, the different institutions and committees that appoint the judges and put into effect, make us victims to a judicial dictatorship. Because once you get into court, democracy, the democratic procedures go out the window, because judges are not elected. Judges generally they might be elected, but they are generally picked by small groups that come out of the law schools and the institutions and the local parties and the judicial committees. So you're really not getting the democratic process when you go to court. And anything that any person who challenges, any person who is a victim of the protected racketeering will only get would be more damaged when he goes to court to ask for protection. And of course, this is pretty obvious. Nobody, the judges of the gangsters in the Supreme Court are not elected; they're appointed, and they're the ones, and they go through different procedures. Even President Bush now has recognized that he will not accept, no longer accept recommendations for the judiciary positions that are the judicial appointments, and he's actually made a statement to the effect that the American Bar Association will not be allowed to pass on the appointments and suitability of any judicial appointment or of any appointment for judicial office. So that's proof enough that even the president sees that they're running the rackets through the bar associations that appoint the judges. And of course, it's very clear that these articles were generated by the fact that just 2 weeks ago, the president said that he wasn't going to accept the recommendations of the American Bar Association for the appointment of judicial appointments anymore. So that means that the mischief has come to the surface to such extent that even the president knows about it. And he's acting on it. Of course, the president is a busy man, even though he gets, he gets a good idea once in a while as far as the judges go. And of course, this is what these articles were all about. And of course, what they did was they only blame it on the fact that that the lawyers are not being paid enough. And they had a statement there from Gunmal, Judith Kay, who's the chief judge of the Court of Appeals, said, well, let's pay them money first
of the Sunday one.
Yeah,
Were the other two Monday and Tuesday?
that's right, yeah.
Did you make a copy of Monday and Tuesday?
No, I did not.
That's
I
bad.
have Tuesdays.
Okay, that.
I saved Tuesdays.
Yeah, that's the gist. I have the copies of all of them now. That's good. It's about time the New York Times did a whole lot more than they do as to the corruption in the courts. This is a serious matter. These courts are meant for you. And is it right to steal your property? No, it is not. Is it right to steal your rights? No, it is not. The New York Times should do a whole lot more than they do to tell people really what is going on in the courts. You need a chat with Glendora for that, right? Now I'm going to play you a brief conversation with Tom Rogers, and he's CEO, Chief Executive Officer. He was the second in command to Bob Wright at NBC, National Broadcasting Company, and he wanted his own company, so he went over and became the CEO of Prime Media, and this is how fast they travel. Tom Rogers has been a friend of mine for maybe 10 years. He's an alumnus of A Chat with Glendora. He did an interview.
It's Glendora.
Hey, Glendora.
How are you?
Good, but you caught me running out the door. I'm late for a dinner date. Why don't you call me back Monday or Tuesday?
Where?
Tuesday in the office. Actually, Thursday in the office is probably the best day.
You have a cold.
Well, I got a sore throat.
Yeah.
But I really got to run. I'm late for dinner.
Wait, I want to tell you about the man standing before the judge.
Yeah.
The judge says, "What does Colonel in front of your name mean?" And the man demurred, and the judge asked him again, and the man hesitated, and finally the judge asked him a third time, and the man says, "Well, Colonel in front of my name is like the Honorable in front of your name. It doesn't mean a thing."
Very good. I like it.
Okay, I gotta catch you. You really sound like you have a cold.
That's a sore throat, but thanks. I'll talk to you soon. Take
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
High-powered CEO. Phil Goldstein.
Oh.
And I tell you, I was just laying down. I had a bad asthma attack today.
Second set of papers where it called for the name of the organization. I wrote in the words "under protest." Oh, yes. And they accepted it? No. Oh, they sent it back. They up and they told me that their lawyers said that they would not accept the contract with that statement under protest. I said, "What do you mean?" Yeah, that's right. That's my new organization. The organization is called Under. And we got into a whole discussion about that. Amy Galembo? Yeah, right. I said, "You can't tell me how to name my organization." Incorporated. I said, "This is an organization we've created, all right, to protest." You know, the papers call for the name of the organization. And under protest. At the same time, I was being a little duplicitous because I wanted to get the words under protest in just for the legal purpose of saying I'm not accepting this contract that's under protest. And so she said, "Well, I'll have to talk to the lawyers about this." She talked to the lawyers, and then I got a phone message saying that they were going to keep your program on the air. Oh, because I said to her, I said, "Well, I guess we'll just have to litigate on this matter." Oh, good for you. Yeah. Good for you. That really makes them quiver. Yeah.
Michael Brown.
Hello.
Michael Brown is Glendora.
Well, hello, Glendora.
I think you're terrific.
Well, you keep telling me that. One of these days somebody can start believing you.
Well, you should.
What's up?
You're good. You're so good on TV. I love watching your programs.
Great. What's
And
up?
I love reading your book.
Good. What's up?
The price of everything.
Well, that I know. I mean, tell me something I don't know.
I'm going to Washington May 6th and rally against the federal judges.
Oh, really? There is such an animal?
Yes, it's called a matter of justice.
How many people do you think will be there?
Well, they had a rally in Richmond, Virginia yesterday on the 4th Circuit, and there were 80.
Okay. That's
wait a second. I'll give you the telephone numbers.
Mm-hmm.
You want them?
Sure, hang on. Let me get,
Let me go get them.
Michael Brown.
I'll go get them.
okay.
Okay, Michael, just a second. Well, I think you're so good on TV.
Thank you.
I've got you up to something like 9 to 10 chapters, and I got you up into prime time, 10 p.m.
Wow.
on one of them. The others are seen in the daytime.
Okay, what's the phone number for this outfit?
Now, I sent you this stuff, you know.
Okay.
I sent it to you, I think it was last weekend. Did you not get it?
Well, I got it, Glendora, but I got so much of your stuff, I have to set some time aside to go through it.
Well, you do, or you're not going to get any more.
Okay.
Now, let's see. The Washington, D.C. number
Okay.
is 202
202
213
213
0975.
75. Okay.
Let me see if I can give you the name of the person. I just sent you out I got you another letter ready that went out to you, telling you about your book. Jacob.
Hey, Jacob?
Yes. Roginski. R-O-G-I-N Nancy S Sam K-Y.
Okay, is it R-O-G or R-O-E?
My note says G.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Roginski.
Okay, Jacob Roginski. Can you tell me anything about him?
About him?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I talked to him on the phone.
Okay. What's he seem like?
What's he seem like? He has an accent, and he was very pleased with the rally in Richmond.
What's, come to think of, what's the name of this guy's organization?
A Matter of Justice.
I think Peggy Danig has already talked to him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so.
I'm going. Are you?
I don't have time, Glendora. I mean, see, my problem is that, unlike you being a television celebrity, I'm a paper shuffler, and I have to shuffle papers every day to try to keep people out of prison.
Oh.
It's, and right now I'm swamped.
Really?
Yeah, but what can I do to help?
Well, that would be the thing. I wanted you to go.
It's May 6th.
Yeah, May 6th.
Maybe I could have this guy on my radio.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yeah.
Let me tell you more about it.
Sure.
Let us join together to vindicate our rights. He goes after the circuits, and he asked me to fill in a questionnaire about the Second Circuit.
Okay.
Important. It is one of the goals who will take attendance. How did the Second Circuit treat you? He had me fill out a bunch of boxes. Let's see. Petition to House Judiciary Committee. It was a petition that I sent you for you to sign, a blank petition.
Okay.
How you'd been treated. Let's see.
Yeah, well, I'd be more than happy to sign that one because I haven't seen anybody treated fairly in the Second Circuit since the 1970s.
Yeah, oh good. I haven't either.
Yeah.
Since the 1980s. Let's see. Petition to House. This is your chance. Hold it, wait, Michael, let me try to find this. The announcement about the rally. Let us join together. It's on a Sunday. That seems to me like a queer time to rally.
It is a little strange.
Dear federal. Darn it! South and West. A Matter of Justice is holding a rally near the U.S. Supreme Court. We hope for great showing there. For that to materialize, each person must act as if the success of the rally depended on. That's a grammatical error. You should have said on him or her alone. Rather than expect that others will do they're demonstrating for them. We should be able to provide carpool for those who can't otherwise come. Reinstatement of all unjustly dismissed federal suits.
Well, there goes the last 30 years.
Impeachment of all justices of the federal courts of appeals. Elimination of absolute judicial immunity.
Well, I'll go for everything he's saying so far.
Appointment of citizens' commissions to investigate abuses in the courts.
Yeah, those used to be called grand juries.
Oh, abolishment of the bar monopoly. Our Fourth Circuit organization will hold a rally near the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals in Richmond, Virginia. Similarly, as soon as the Second Circuit organization is formed, rallies will be scheduled and held near the Second Circuit Court of Appeals.
Well, what's this rally in D.C. for?
That I just read you.
Oh, for the Fourth Circuit, or?
No, for the reinstatement of all unjustly...
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, unfortunately, you have to have a congressman that'll introduce a bill.
Oh, yeah, and I sent you a copy that you requested from Orrin Hatch.
Yeah.
I thought it was a pretty good letter you wrote.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've seen that letter before.
Oh, okay.
That's a form letter.
Okay.
He tries to make it look like he's actually paying attention, but he isn't.
He isn't.
No, he's just another dirtbag.
Who owns him?
Not really sure. See, Orrin Hatch had delusions of being appointed to the Supreme Court himself, and I think George Hansen kind of screwed that one up for him. Because see, there was some guy over in Oklahoma City that got beat to death by prison hacks, and George Hansen, who was a member of Congress, asked Orrin Hatch to investigate. Orrin Hatch wouldn't lift a finger, so then George Hansen put billboards up all over the place from between Oklahoma and Idaho, saying that the Orrin Hatch was useless. and Orrin Hatch basically, I mean, here's a guy who wouldn't even talk to him. All of a sudden he's calling him saying, look, could we work this out or whatever? Bill didn't do anything.
Class action suit against the federal judiciary and the ABA. A matter of justice is contemplating a class action suit against the federal judiciary, the American Bar Association, and possible other entities. The Second Circuit Judiciary will be named specifically as a defendant, along with equitable relief directed at reinstating the illegally dismissed suits. Billions of dollars in compensatory and punitive damages will be sought on behalf of the participating victims of the federal and possibly state courts. Please join us in this suit.
Well, the problem is I think he's got the right instincts, but everything you're telling me here, he doesn't have any idea of how to go about it properly.
Okay, please join us in this suit. A matter of justice is also considering the use of the Hague Court, the International Court in The Hague.
I wish him luck. Like I say, I need to talk to this guy, because if I can just get him redirected a little bit, Glendora, for whatever it's worth, I'm going to have to send you a copy of this. I know exactly how to get these scumbags now. It's taken me 27 years to figure it out, and I've had to have a lot of help, especially from a guy down in Atlanta, but I know exactly right now how to turn this thing around.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's real simple. I'll tell you how it works. Most of these judges, they don't read anything. Law clerks and staff attorneys read it.
I confirm that.
Okay, now, the problem is, once a law clerk or staff attorney reads something and writes an opinion and a judge signs it, that is a fraud.
Yes, it is.
All right?
It definitely is. That's right.
Okay, but now let's take it one step further. All right? Here's the Achilles heel of this whole system. When you request what are called the bench memoranda, in other words, these are all the memos prepared by the staff attorneys and the law clerks for the judge. All right? Now, going all the way back to the English common law, back to the time before the Norman Conquest, all court records are supposed to be made public, and those there's something really critical, like the name of an informer or something like that. All right?
Yes, 1061.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, now, once you find out what you are supposed to be able to do under open records, not under the Freedom of Information Act, because the court system is specific
minute you find out one of these punks' names and which case he worked on and what he did on it, you don't go after the judges, you go after the staff attorneys.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, court clerks.
Yeah, because here's what will happen.
Law clerks.
Law clerks, yeah. See, because here's what will happen. The minute you sue a law clerk, all right, for this type of fraud, first, he has no defense, okay? But second, which is far more critical, now he has a lawsuit that is now a public record that is going to follow him for his entire legal career.
Terrific.
Okay? In other words, what you're looking to do there. See, the big mistake we've been making all these years is in this chess game we've been playing with these scumbags, we haven't got the pawns out of the way.
Oh.
And that's what these law clerks and staff attorneys are. And see, when they start getting hurt, when they start getting sued, when they start being up to public ridicule, of course, which is where your program comes in, then you're going to see a big change in the federal judiciary. Because right now, these clowns get a job like, I don't know, have you ever read any of Herman Skolnick's stuff?
No.
Okay, I'm going to have to send you some of it.
Oh.
Pardon?
Oh.
What do you mean, oh?
I don't have time to read it.
Oh, well, see, Glendora, now you're beginning to understand what part of my problem is. Okay? Same thing. I mean, where's your...
Yes, I sued two of these crazy clerks. Today I'm suing them in the, guess where? In the United States District Court, District of Alaska.
Oh, really?
Yes, two of them I'm suing. McCasey's two clerks. One is named Moorhead, one is named Shapiro. They're fly-by-nights. They come in there for a year and they're gone.
That's true, yeah. They're law students. I mean, these dweebs...
Yeah, they are. They're right. That's their first job out of law school.
Exactly. The thing is, they are totally unqualified for the position.
Yes.
And here in Missouri, it's even worse because there is a state constitutional provision that you have to have been a practicing attorney for 10 years before you can serve as a state judge.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Well, then how does somebody just out of law school take over the judge's functions and for it?
That's great. That's a good point.
Yeah, well, see, it's the same thing here. The minute, see, there are two big problems that we have with the federal judiciary that when we can make the public understand that federal judges are not handling their cases. They're being handled by punks just out of law school.
Right.
And the other thing we have to make people understand is the connection between the elected politicians and the judges they don't discipline.
Oh, yeah.
And see, the minute that happens, then this stuff starts turning around.
Oh, you're terrific.
Well, I'll try to do a program for you.
Yeah, you're terrific.
Thank you.
You're really terrific.
No, actually,
I did sue one of them. His name was Tormey, and he was Bryant's law clerk. And boy, did Bryant go through flagellations to get rid of that.
Well, yeah, because see, what you've just done is you've made a public record of the deception that's being practiced.
Yes.
By the rest of us.
Yes, and you know, they admit to me. I get quite friendly with them, and they admit to me that they write the decisions.
Yeah, and the thing is, they have no business writing those.
No, they certainly don't. What's a judge getting paid $133,000 a year for?
Exactly. I mean, in fact, this whole thing with law clerks didn't even start until 1875.
Oh.
In other words, see, we had a federal judiciary from 1791, the first Judiciary Act, up until 1875. Horace Gray, who was a Massachusetts Supreme Court justice, had two law clerks. He brought them with him to the United States Supreme Court in 1875. All right? And then other federal judges started adopting the practice. Congress later codified it, I think in Title 28, Section 751, authorizing law clerks, but they don't have any duties assigned by statute. In other words, they're just there.
Oh, no, that's right.
And so now, today, what we have...
The whole thing is phony.
Oh, exactly. At the United States Supreme Court level, there are 428 of these scumbags.
Yes, it's terrible.
I mean,
and you know how many, they told me how many applications they get. They get at least 1,000. And it doesn't make a difference how many applications you get. Who's going to get appointed? The son of the...
To trust me with 3 of his tools.
I have a friend who's been to his office. I'll get it for you.
Okay, well, what I need is I need an introduction.
Oh, no, I don't have that.
Well, that's what I'm looking for, because if I could sit down with Al Sharp and see this article in The Nation, it ridiculed him, but I could read between the lines, and apparently this guy is a lot smarter than anybody thinks he is.
And you know, he got sued for libel.
Well, so what? Everybody gets sued these days. Unless you don't have anything, then you're...
In a state court, because he lied that the assistant district attorney up in Rockland County raped this girl, and they found it was not true. You remember that case?
No.
Okay.
I remember that thing about a Tawana Brawley.
That's the one.
Okay, yeah. I don't think he got sued for libel over that one.
Yeah, he did.
Did he?
Oh, yeah, he and somebody else.
Well, the thing is, though, is that...
And he lost. The jury
How much
convicted
did
him.
he lose?
Oh, it was tens of thousands of dollars, I guess.
Okay.
And I don't know what's happened to it since. You never hear, but...
Well, what Sharpton said, he said, look, he said, people keep saying, well, why don't you apologize for that? He said, why should I? He said, because here's what'll happen. He said, if I apologize, then they'll come back and they say, well, you didn't apologize enough. He said, so screw him. He says, I'm not telling anybody I'm sorry for anything.
Well, that's not a way a minister talks, exactly.
Well, no, but that's what I read out of it, okay? All right. But see, here's what I'm looking at. This guy, he's got his building, I think it's called the Hall of Justice or something. And one of the things he's going after is all this police brutality.
Yes.
He wouldn't have any of these police.
Yeah, he just started up a case this week.
Pardon?
He just started up a case this week after one of them.
He wouldn't have any of this if the court system worked.
No, that's right.
Okay, so what I need to do is I need to sit down with this guy and say, look, here's two things you want. You want to stop the police brutality. You want to expand your power base, because he's got a real power base in New York City. He has it no place else. He is not Jesse Jackson, all right? Even though he doesn't have Jackson's baggage, he's a lot more intelligent, okay? So all I need to do is sit down with this guy and say, look, you want to expand your power base, you want to stop the police brutality. They're the same issue. You go after the court corruption. And if he starts doing that, he'll accomplish both, and then you and I will get what we want.
Okay.
So, if you've got somebody who can give me an intro, I'd be willing to fly up there at my own expense just to have an hour of this guy's time, preferably 90 minutes.
Well, okay, honey. I'll keep it in mind.
Okay, yeah, well, if you stumble across it, that's fine.
Do you want to adopt a dog?
No, I can't keep a dog in an apartment.
Oh, I never told you my story about S.U. Dillon. I have a really good one on him.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, he's
what you got?
Oh, well, what he did to me in Indianapolis when I sued a court officer who shoved me and my camera into the elevator when I went in to pay a parking ticket fine. I wasn't even going to court. So what he did to that is really terrible. And what I said to him, and that's really a story.
Glendora, you have to be a piece of human garbage to even want that job these days.
Oh, yes, that's true.
But you really have to be absolute human trash.
Okay.
Want that.
Listen, I'm an English major in addition to being a psychology major and a graduate student in physics. I want you, if you're going to write anything or publish anything, send it to me so I can correct the incomplete sentences.
Sure.
And the run-on sentences, because you're so good.
Okay.
Okay. Now, listen, that Bill of Rights thing that you wrote, the Restoration Act, that's brilliant.
Sure.
That's really brilliant.
You need some more of them?
No, I'm reading one.
Well, I thought you might want some to pass out down there.
Well, I will.
You're going down there.
I'll pass out even without those. Something else I was going to ask you. Darn, I can't even read my own writing. But I made your note about Sharpton if I hear.
Yeah, if there's some way to get it, because I've got other people working on it, but,
yeah. What are you going to do? Do you have a young person to take over this work? When you move on?
What I do is I train people how to do this. But here's my problem.
Yeah, but do you have a leader like you? You got to get one, honey. You got to get a successor.
Well, yeah, but where am I going to get him from?
I know it, but you got to.
See, I've got guys that I call my officers. Colonel Mole down in Atlanta, Wing Commander Gary in Indianapolis, Staff Sergeant Daddick down in Florida. I run this like a military operation.
Yeah, I know you do. You're that.
And I've trained people, but here's my problem. Every time I get somebody trained to do it my way, they're buried. They wind up with more work than they can handle.
I know. We're not far from West Point.
I taught marksmanship there back in 1961. That was one of the 4 guys in the rifle pits teaching those dweebs how to use a weapon. And I went up there with stars in my eyes thinking, oh, look at this, West Point. I'm going to help train America's guys are in the rifle pits. I said, you know what? If we ever have to fight another war with this officer corps, we're going to lose it.
Did you hear from Springfield, Missouri Public Access?
No,
I asked them to send the material to you.
well, they probably will. They may be a little slow.
Listen, would you get time to call them?
Yep.
And I think you should ask them to send it to Glendora and give them this number. And if they call and ask for Glendora, say she isn't in, let me take a message and she'll call you.
Sure. Yeah.
I think that we ought to get the program on in there.
Yeah, you're right. We do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do need.
We really do.
In fact, I've got a Methodist minister here that was just bugging me about it. Just a couple of days ago.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So you're right. Yeah, we do have that done.
Okay, honey bun. I got to go get Franklin out of the bathtub. You know, he's fallen 9 times, and I got to make sure I'm there. I don't want him to fall again.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
All right, did I tell you about the guy named Colonel? Yeah, standing before the judge?
Yes,
You did, okay. Well, listen, you're terrific. God, I'm so happy that I met you. You're one of the 2 best things that happened this year.
Well, I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, it is true.
We do have a common enemy.
It is true, okay?
Okay.
All righty.
Let us talk to you later.
All right, read my stuff.
Will do.
All right, bye.
This is the camera that sees in the dark. It's dark and it's 5:06 a.m.
Talk to you later.
All right, read my stuff.
Will do.
All right, bye.
This is the camera that sees in the dark. It's dark and it's 5:06 a.m. Sunday morning, May the 6th, Anno Domini. We have just embarked for Washington, D.C. to picket federal judges who have robbed you of your rights and of your courts. I told you to boycott P.C. Richards. I've told you about the JVC camera, right? I use it maybe 20 minutes to a half an hour, and there's a $135 repair bill on it. Boycott P.C. Richards, and then you try to get it through. Nobody listens to you. And you have signs all over the place. Trust, trust. We're the people you can trust. They have been put to the test. So far, you cannot trust them. Acumen, the dog who wouldn't leave your side, who wouldn't leave your feet. Yesterday, he pushed down the obstruction between Patty's fence her gate, and the people to the east. And he went through. Now, I didn't see this, and it was reported to me by the man who lives to the east. A woman brought him back and put him in the yard. And the woman left. It would have been nice if she'd made herself known to me. And then Acumen's back into the yard, the woman leaves, and Acumen goes through the place again. So there's twice he deserted me. Twice he was disloyal to me. And I haven't seen him since. That happened at 7:30 a.m. Sunday morning, 22 hours ago. Approaching the Cross County West to go south on the Deegan. Is that right, Franklin? And over the George Washington Bridge, I-95, and New Jersey Turnpike.
Turn to the right here. Take the right fork. Wouldn't you?
Well, I have no choice if I want to go west.
Yeah.
And 9495 is working. Hooray, hooray, hooray.
That's good.
Oh, yeah. Now, if Acumen ends in the right hands, they would call that number because he's wearing it. So it got to working just at the right time. I don't see many cars, do you folks? And I went off and left my bridge. So I'm going to Washington, D.C. to picket. With no front teeth.
That's too bad.
Rocky Dog and Rusty Dog are keeping each other company. And Patty is still in the hospital. Cross County West. You think you had a mini stroke? On March the 9th? That was the day that you sideswiped the railing coming back from Norwalk, Connecticut?
I think that's the reason I sideswiped the railing.
Eyesight?
It was on that side, you see. And I wasn't able to gauge.
Yeah. I have good news.
Oh, what's that going?
Well, the United States Supreme Court on Bruiser Ken boomeranged our petition for writ of certiorari a fourth time. Okay?
Right.
And we have to send it back to them. And I wrote a 12-page excoriation of, I know exactly what they're up to. They're trying to lose it in the mail, or they're trying to keep from filing it because they don't want people to know, particularly Congress, to know what the terrible thing that the Eastern District of New York did, right?
Yeah.
And what the Second Circuits did,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I told him that. And I wrote Orrin Hatch and told him in the House Judiciary Committee. And we made something like 12 sets. And they're all ready. Unfortunately, you weren't there to sign the master. You have to sign 12 sets. Okay?
Yeah.
And then it's all ready to seal the envelopes to the people copied and all ready to bind up the box again, which must weigh 20 pounds because it's 10 copies of your petition and 10 copies of my petition, plus all their foolish papers. So that's all ready to go on Monday. What did you start to say?
You know, it's obvious that they want to get rid of it.
Yeah, this is nothing new, of course. They do it all the time, and this is a felony. Okay, we're looking for the George Washington Bridge, I-95, coming down to Diggin. The time is 5:20 a.m. And Frankie's going with me because I don't know what happened to Fran Finesse. She never got back to me, never. I wanted her to go with us. So in view of that, Franklin dropped everything and went with me. Fordham Road, here's where the Civil RICO New York City Parking Violations Bureau imprisoned the 1980 Lincoln, an innocent car. We went and rescued him. And that's the case that mentally incompetent Michael B. McCasey said only one sentence about it. The case is dismissed with prejudice. So it's appealed in the Second Circuit, and I didn't have time to read you that opus. That is really a great, great paper against McCasey. And that's what we're going to Washington, D.C. for, to protest that kind of crookedness in the United States courts. Coming to the George Washington Bridge. We went to the lower level, folks, and it's closed, and they don't give you any warning. I hate this destruction, so-called construction. George Washington Bridge. It's around 5:39, 45 miles per hour. That cost us 10 minutes. Franklin calls this the George Washington Bridge Jewels. Jewels. And the people from down south call it the Booker T. Washington Bridge. Coming down, it looks like we're on the correct road. 95 South New Jersey Turnpike. The problem is that you can't get rid of the New Jersey Turnpike. I wish I-95 South did go through New Jersey. It does, but in a funny way. So you have to take this terrible turnpike, and it's a lot of money. So how did we get back onto the upper level? Well, when the lower level was all blocked with trucks and barricades, we took the Henry Hudson Parkway south. We took the first exit, exit 13th, 138th Street.